7 words of emergence. This article addresses emergence related to spiritual awakening and development. Emergence is hard to describe, yet, like a newborn baby, it's difficult to ignore. We know when it's happening, even though we sometimes struggle to know when it's over. What exactly is it? It can be thought of as a process whereby what was previously concealed is revealed. Slowly or suddenly, something previously hidden comes into our awareness, our consciousness. Like when the sky is obscured by endless cloud, we may or may not be conscious that whatever is now emerging existed prior to its emergence. The sky existed before it was obscured by cloud. Yet, through a break in the cloud, we see a glimpse of blue sky that was always there, and we want more. Or do we? We may fight or resist emergence, yet surrendering to the process of becoming more in the ocean of being is easier. It will wait patiently until we are ready. Then its entrance may be gradual, subtle, and silent, or sudden, loud, and remarkable. Either way, expected or unexpected, its appearance is no longer in doubt. What was previously concealed is now revealed. A candle has been lit. Evidence now exists that is plain for all to see. We may welcome or reject what is emerging. We may or may not understand what has been or is being discovered. There may or may not be a paradigm shift, yet if whatever emerges is ignored, it will wither and die, at least in our life. Valued and nurtured, it will grow and blossom. Things have changed. New possibilities exist. What happens next is up to us.
I have learned that the last 3 weeks and the topic of emergence has had a very personal impact on many members of the group, outside of the Sabian symbols and in general life. Or it's had a perhaps an impact, but it's had a little it's had an impact. It's had an impact, but it's had an effect that we're starting to recognize and notice and think and reflect more on emergence.
Yeah, and that's the most exciting part of what we're doing together, is actually working. So much teaching is given on a conceptual level, but when you actually find that it is deeply meaningful, and I don't think we're bored yet with emergence. We've been studying it for weeks, and there's just so much more. So I've got a much more subtle idea of what it means. I'm still learning myself what emergence is and what the Sabian symbols are and how they need to be what they are to get emergence done. And I think what Katrina did was to bring in the image of a woman giving birth, and Loic and I were more discussing kind of emergence of ideas, and we found parallels, really, really clear parallels, and how the 5 Sabian degrees can be very definitely applied, not only a necessary but a sufficient condition for emergence on both of those totally different realms of being.
We had a similar experience of looking at what is happening for us personally in terms of things which we didn't expect or wanted to happen, and that are now beginning to happen. And what do we do personally to prevent those things happening? I think in the piece I read at the beginning, if we nurture what is emerging. It will grow. If we ignore it, it will die. Yeah, there was a lot. I've got three particular things which occurred to me. So one of them was bringing forward all the environmental knowledge I acquired during my professional career into the legend, and being the spokesperson for treading lightly. So yes, we need to survive. Yes, we need to build shelter, but let's do that in an environmentally appropriate and friendly way.
Well done.
That was one thing. I realized that in the gardening, which I've begun to do since I retired, I shared this with Lottie after Sharon had left, I am really sad when plants die. Yes, I can put them on the compost, and yes, they can be recycled and so on and so forth. But when I go into my greenhouse and see that plants which have germinated actually die, it makes me really sad. So the emergence of, and this is kind of linked to the next point, which is we talked a little bit about impulses. One of your strap lines, James, is through refinement, our impulses lead us towards self-realization. And we had a little discussion about those impulses being both positive and negative, and pessimism and optimism. And we need to be careful when we embrace negative impulses beyond the point of doing harm to anyone. That's the point at which our embracing of that negative impulse needs perhaps to stop. Whereas Lottie was saying that emergence, much of what we've been doing together over the last few weeks has had a very positive and optimistic approach and attitude, and yet but what we might call negative things can emerge if we don't pay attention to things, if we're not careful about what we say, to whom we say it, when we say it, and so on. So negativity and bad things can emerge just as much as good things can emerge.
Yeah, I think they're inevitably going to come forth together. Polarity is not a sequential thing. Everything is in the realm of duality. So if you don't see the shadow part of your light emergent, then you're just not looking for it. You're not, it. Whenever we light a candle, the darkness kind of becomes darker.
Yeah.
Just a reminder that everything is really the law of emergence. Like, it seems to be the birth of everything. So it's just this aspect of the beginning of time. Like, I was thinking of the law of attraction, and I'm like, is it based on it's are we really attracting people, or are we just following what is emerging from, and that's what really come to us. And there's this aspect of not trying to make things happen, but makes things welcome. You made it welcome. You don't make it happen. You made it welcome. It's that aspect of emergence again, So it's really the beginning. I'll just very it's the beginning, It's very interesting, but so obvious.
Sharon had mentioned something similar about going with the flow and letting go of the control and the flow of things, and what you just said. I had to write it down actually about the law of attraction, or are we going with the flow of the emergence? And I think that's what the conversation with Richard and Sharon really affirmed for me, was the constant cycle of emergence, and that emergence can keep going and keep growing and keep and it's much more flowing than maybe awakening, which can be a big hard-hitting thing. A lot more in some ways, and almost more of a breaking than an emerging.
Yeah, I think I will even go to the say that even if we move on, it all has to do with emergence anyway. And I think there is this aspect of emergence in every degree of the Sabian symbols. They all have this aspect of emergence within them. So this is why, like, it is the beginning. It's just really you see that throughout all the degrees that they all has some kind of color that has emergence in it. And it makes sense because it really is the path from Aries and to Pisces. So